Advanced planning is important for everyone, but particularly important for people with dementia. We are exploring the stories of Sarah, Martha, and Dennis. They experienced advanced planning in very different ways. Sarah began thinking about her plans soon after she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. With support from the options counselor and her own desire not to burden her husband, she and her family made many plans. She participated fully in the planning for a future when she would not have capacity. Dennis had more significant impairment than Sarah when the options counselor first met with him and his family. At that time, his capacity for making rational decisions was questionable. However, through encouragement from the options counselors, his daughters were able to work with Dennis to set up legal, financial, and health documents. He even visited a couple of assisted living facilities when his daughter needed some respite. This experience provided his daughters with a good sense of where he would be most comfortable if they felt they could no longer support him at home. Martha's situation was more challenging. She had no family or other informal support and had made no arrangements in advance. By the time she became involved with services and supports through the ADRC, her decision-making capacity was clearly compromised. Throughout this module, we will describe the advanced planning process used in each of these stories. When talking about advanced planning with people with dementia, capacity to make decisions and participate in advanced planning is an issue. In general, older adults in the United States, autonomy is valued. But remember, the desire for autonomy and its value to an individual is influenced by cultural and family tradition. In these stories, the desire for and value placed on autonomy is high. Research tells us that the well-being of all older adults, including those with dementia, is better when the older adult is involved in making decisions that affect his or her life. Yet with dementia, the ability to make informed and reasoned decisions is increasingly impaired. Therefore, when talking about advanced planning, it is important to consider the capacity of the individual to plan and to make decisions that will be in his or her best interest and will be consistent with previously expressed values and preferences. Essentially, capacity is the ability to understand and appreciate the consequences of one's actions and to make rational decisions. Incapacitated is also a legal term, and it means that a person has a condition in which their ability to receive and evaluate information effectively or to communicate decisions is impaired to such an extent that the person presently lacks the capacity to meet the essential requirements for the person's physical health or safety. The ability to make decisions varies from one situation to another. Areas of decision-making include medical and health, financial capacity, driving, living arrangements, and everyday decision-making. A person can be legally incapacitated in some areas and not others. For example, a person with dementia may not be able to manage a checkbook or make investment decisions, but they can make decisions about what groceries to buy. Almost everybody has capacity to make decisions about how to spend their time. Similarly, people with dementia may not be able to make arrangements for home maintenance, but they may have the capacity to live alone successfully because they can handle all of their activities of daily living and have adequate supports in place. Legal capacity requirements can vary from one legal document to another. Most people go through the dementia trajectory without ever being legally declared incapacitated. As we move through this module, we will return to the issue of capacity and decision-making. Planning for a time when you or someone you love will not have capacity to make decisions about health care and quality of life is difficult. It's hard to think about, much less talk about. Fortunately, many resources are available to guide and support individuals and families through this process. The Conversation Project is one of these tools. Some of the things for the person with dementia to think about early in their disease is how they wish to live and who they want to tell about their wishes. Also, each person needs to think about the best time to have this conversation with others who are important to them. It might be at a large family gathering, or it might be a quiet one-on-one talk. The place for the discussion is also important. It might be in the person's home, or in a more neutral place, such as a park or coffee shop. The best time and location for each person will be different. It is best if the person can think ahead and plan the most important things they wish to convey. Writing notes ahead of time can be quite helpful. Among the tools from the Conversation Project are some suggested conversation starters, such as, I need your help with something. I need to think about the future. Will you help me? Or, I just answered some questions about how I want the end of my life to be. I want you to see my answers, and I'm wondering what your answers would be. This information was very useful for Sarah. After meeting with the options counselor, she read through these materials, jotting notes. She found her daughter most receptive to the conversation and went through many of these questions with her. In contrast to Sarah's family, where she had to overcome resistance of her husband to talk about advanced planning and end-of-life decisions, Dennis's daughters struggled at first to have a conversation with each other and then come up with ways to have the conversation with Dennis. The options counselor, again, was a helpful facilitator, making discussion of these issues part of the commitment and implementation planning processes described in modules 5 and 6. Dennis's daughters found these suggestions about having difficult conversations helpful. Don't wait for a crisis. Do some research first. Talk with other family members and seek agreement on general issues to address, and figure out how to maintain communication. They planned ahead and thought about what, when, where, and how it would be best to talk with Dennis. They practiced conversations. They anticipated multiple discussions. They realized that these conversations would unfold over time, and that they would focus mostly on things that were important to him. Some additional tips they found was that during the conversation, make it your problem. Dad, I'm really worried about you and I can't sleep. Or, and emphasize support for self-determination. We know it's important for you to stay at home, and we want to figure out how to do that. And make it a team effort. They were all in this together. Sarah and Bill's options counselor told them about the Alzheimer's Association website and recommended that they explore the I Have Alzheimer's page. Sarah and Bill were able to access the site through the ADRC Alzheimer's webpage. Included on this site is information about legal, financial, building a care team to support the person with dementia, and end-of-life care. This was especially empowering for Sarah because the site was developed by and for people with dementia. Let's listen to some of the individuals on this website talk about the importance of planning.